Happy Wine Wednesday, everyone. Not only do I have a sea dragon in my hair, but I have Chardonnay in my hand. What a wonderful combination, right? Let me scoot over a little bit. Wrong way. Anyhow, hope your week has been fabulous. I'm going to skip, kind of go quickly on the updates. We have a bunch. Website's still coming. Seahorse Whisperer group is coming along. We've gotten some admin going, and we're going to start doing some things in the group like files and lots of cool stuff. So get on over and join the group. Help us out. We want it to be special. We want it to be different. There's already fabulous Seahorse Sources group. there are already fabulous Seahorse groups on Facebook. We want this one to be kind of different and cater to the needs of the members. So get on over there, join, and tell us what you want us to do with it, right? We're going to do things with the membership on YouTube that'll be linked to the website and to the group. So just make sure you're in it so you win it, right? That's enough on that because I don't have any specifics to report yet. We're still working on it. But get over there and help us. The other thing I have to say is that I have Holly, Ray, and Cheryl with me tonight. It is open chat. Don't forget, next week we have a special guest. Watch for the post. It's going to be a fantastic conversation, I guess, about bacteria, Vibrio, all the stuff that matters to seahorse keepers and reef tank keepers. So come even if you're not a seahorse keeper. With all my announcements done, I will say hello. I think it's Shyla that's with us already. Hello to whoever's with us so far. And Holly, I'm going to ask you to start us off with an update about Scrappy Doo. And we need to go back to last week. I know you've posted a
Yeah.
bunch, but for people that aren't on Facebook, last week we talked about the fact that Holly and I both had male seahorses experiencing some similar symptoms, like staying away from the group, kind of acting suspicious of us, hiding kind of, and maybe avoiding other things. And so, Holly, take us from there. What did you
like
discover?
like food. So the main thing was Scrappy Doo wasn't really eating. And like Kelly said, he was acting suspicious of me. Um not himself, basically. So he looked fine, he looked healthy, so I was thinking, well, maybe he's pregnant. And then after several days went by, all of a sudden he starts courting. And I could see his pouch was empty.
Ah,
So, because he was opening it up and swimming around with candy, I'm like, okay, so he's not pregnant. He doesn't look like he has any kind of infection. So, I'm going to do a freshwater dip and see if that might tell me something.
should I share it now?
Yeah, you can share the freshwater dip.
Okay.
So basically, this is after roughly 9 days of not eating. I put him in the fresh water. This was yesterday. And he started reacting. Mostly, he started snapping his jaw. You see that?
Yep.
And that was the giveaway. I'm like, oh, no wonder he's not eating. It's not comfortable for him. He has ciliates or some other kind of parasite embedded in his head. And so I left him in for the full 12 minutes
There he goes flicking. Yep.
and then put him back in the tank because I don't have a hospital tank set up for him right now. I don't have the right medications, honestly, yet. They're on the way. And so when I put him back in the tank, honestly, I thought I was going to lose him because he almost stopped breathing. His eyes started to look like he was dying.
Aw.
And I kind of picked him up. I gently moved him to a spot where I could watch him, because originally he went and hid in a corner, and I gave him a place where he could kind of feel like he was in hiding, but I could still see him. And
Yep.
gradually he came back throughout the day, took him several hours. And then all of a sudden he went right back to courting candy.
Huh.
And so a couple meal times came and went. And when he started feeling better, he'd come and look at the feeding station, like hang on to a hitch nearby, and he'd look at it longingly, like he really wanted to eat, but
Mm-hmm.
he wouldn't come eat. And then at nighttime, I was getting ready for bed,
Aw.
and it was like a couple hours after their last meal. And I noticed Candy is doing a mad food dance.
Okay.
And he's sitting nearby on that hitch looking at the food dish, and she's dancing like she's trying to catch my attention. So I'm like, okay, I'll try one more time. So I went and got the food and put food in the dish, and Candy moved out of the way and he came and ate. And Candy let him eat. She didn't, so she was dancing for me to feed him, which I found
Yep.
interesting. So
Very. Let me
he
interrupt you
ate.
real quick, really
Mhm.
quick, and just say for anybody tuning in, remember, I know this might be hard to watch, but this is actually not hurting the seahorse. This freshwater dip is an indicator that there's a problem. If Scrappy Doo did not have some sort of issue, probably ciliates, then he would not be reacting to the freshwater dip. I've had seahorses sit in a freshwater dip and not move and act like nothing was wrong. So
Yeah.
this was the way that Holly was able to tell that there was a problem. Obviously, she figured it out, and Scrappy Doo's back in his home. Just wanted to put that out there. All right, go on, Holly. Sorry. And
Yeah.
wait. I also want to say that Holly is definitely a seahorse whisperer because she has conversations with her seahorses. They tell her, "Hey, Scrappy Doo needs
Yeah.
food." But go
Yeah.
ahead. Go ahead.
So he did eat, and he ate like a good sized meal, and then he went and swam over to his hitch where he likes to hang out, his favorite hitch, and Candy finished up the leftovers, and then I siphoned it out. Now, as of today, he hasn't eaten again, but he'll look at the dishes. He looks at the turkey baster. He looks like he wants to eat. And I'm like, he needs more treatment.
Right. That's a
Yeah,
clear indicator of
I,
weak SNC, right? I
I,
mean, that's it.
I have medications on the way. Now, he was able to eat, he was able to snick last night.
I know, but he's not
So
now
I think well, I think he can, but I think it's probably painful for him.
because of the
And he
ciliates, right?
probably still has more celiacs. So I have medication on the way, but I think there's stuff going on. See, I'm in California, and I guess they're having a lot of bad weather, like on the East Coast and the South, maybe,
Okay.
because my formalin I ordered days ago says it's supposed to be arriving tomorrow, but I haven't seen it's on the UPS tracking. I don't see any updates since it left New Jersey on the 3rd, like a few days ago. And then it's got a note that says something about shipments may be delayed due to circumstance. So I'm guessing weather back there or
Well,
something.
I know it's like literally I
I
look
guess
I
in the South, like Mississippi and stuff, are having
Well, I'm
flooding.
I'm in
Something crazy.
Indiana, and I'll just tell you guys, if the stream cuts off randomly, it's because we have storms going on outside. Like my kids are afraid there's going to be a tornado and such. So yeah,
Tornadoes, that's what it is.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely bad weather
Yeah,
down.
so that of live brine shrimp coming supposedly that I can't figure out. Nobody's answering, and I
Yeah.
mean, so everything's kind of tied up, so I'm not able to treat him yet. I'm just trying to get him to eat when he can. I mean, he's still active. He was flirting with Sadie today after I
Mm-hmm.
did the water change. He's acting normal. other than that, he's having trouble with the ciliates, but
So Ray, couple questions for you about Holly's situation.
Well,
First of
first thing
all,
I want
go
to
ahead.
make a comment on her dip.
Go ahead.
In my opinion, the ciliate problem isn't disastrous on that seahorse. When I see one that's really in trouble, the thrashing is just phenomenal.
insane. Yeah.
That's nowhere as close to what I've seen a reaction for ciliates. And so I think you may be looking at something other than the parasites that might be a problem. And it's probably an internal situation, and especially after looking at the other one. Was that other one in the same tank or a different tank?
No,
Different
no,
tank?
no. Two different tanks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Two different
Well,
tanks.
unless you've got a similar problem in both tanks.
Yeah.
But, I think there's something beyond that. Like the thrashing just isn't, in my opinion, the thrashing is not enough to indicate that it's a problem that's going to keep it from eating.
But so what do you think it is, Ray? She's got two seahorses, two separate tanks. She doesn't mix. She doesn't, she's careful about contamination. And the rest of the seahorses in the tank are fine, but these two are having trouble eating, having
And the
symptoms of.
one's different. The other one didn't have trouble eating. The other one I showed you. This was like bam, all of a sudden.
Okay.
She ate this morning. No, I think there's other issues with that seahorse.
Do you want me to show it or no?
But when there's no
Okay.
no physical appearance changed and nothing else to indicate what we're dealing with, then I always have to assume that it's something internal. And unfortunately, I have never done well with internal infections of any kind.
Yeah, same here. But I'm thinking what I'll probably do is end up treating him with antibiotics also. Just, just whatever I have, because I don't know, what it is.
Well, and he's pretty, he's kind of old, isn't he?
No. He's one of the ones I raised, so he'll be turning 3 years old this summer.
Which is still an accomplishment. I mean, 3 years old is still good.
Yeah.
But
and I mean, like I said, he looks good. He looks really good. And he's acting better now. He's acting like he feels better.
But now he won't eat again. And that's what I was going to ask Ray. So she did a freshwater dip. It took him a minute to reaccustom himself to the water. But then he ate. Now he won't eat. Should she do another freshwater dip?
Well, I'm going to
I wouldn't at this particular point, especially when, as I say, the indication wasn't of a real severe problem.
Okay.
So, and the dip that was done there would take care of a lot of whatever parasites were there at the time. Did you see much in the way of imploded parasitic residue after the dip?
No.
I didn't think you'd see much. See,
no.
If you had a severe problem, you would have seen all this white stuff in there. It's when the ciliates or any other parasite are affected, they actually implode. And you see the residue when it comes out of the seahorse, and
like the dead ones.
It'll be sitting there in the water.
So she's on the right track then, thinking that she'll treat.
So
she's on
internal.
You think it's internal? Okay.
I'm actually starting to suspect the ones that you got back from the person that you had all the trouble with and you worked so hard to save, because the reading I've done, it can take up to 6 months after initial contamination before you actually see signs. And I'm wondering if they contaminated your seahorse.
But they haven't been with any other seahorses other than mine.
Yeah, but that one person had them when you got them back. You got the one.
Yeah, there's all sorts of ways. It doesn't have to be another seahorse that contaminates it. It could be.
Yeah, but she only had the seahorses. Well, I sold them to a guy, and he had them in their own tank. He didn't have other fish with them, and then he.
Yeah, but what else was in the tank?
I'm just thinking out loud because the reading I've done says they can go up to 6 months after exposure before they show symptoms of some of this stuff.
And what I
Well,
was
it's
trying
been
to say is,
longer than 6 months, though. It's been
Yeah.
close to 2 years.
right,
So,
but right, and I'm not saying that that's the cause at all. It's probably raised right. It's something internal for sure. But
Yeah.
we know you're not doing anything wrong, Holly. So I get Cheryl's thought process. And the thing is, a lot of people, like what you said, well, the person that I sold them to didn't mix them with other seahorses, which is great.
they
But
weren't with
what
other fish at all. He had them in a tank, just that the seahorses that I sold to him.
Yeah.
and no coral,
No,
no
he is
nothing.
all artificial, like I did.
But but the reason he gave him back is because he couldn't care for him and the water quality was bad, right? So, I mean, water quality bad. I don't know. I just understand Cheryl's
Yeah.
thought process.
I'm just thinking out loud because it can happen. I've heard of more than one situation where they bring in a seahorse and 6 months later they start losing seahorses, and it can take a while for it to show its ugly head, depending on what they brought in.
Well, with the time element, well beyond that 6 months,
Yeah.
I really don't think that's the problem. I think it's something in the water that causing an internal infection with, God knows which organ, but some internal organs are bacterially affected.
Yeah.
It's
So
not-
probably just try antibiotics then, you think, Ray?
Well, you can try it. I honestly have not been very successful using antibiotics on a seahorse with internal problems.
Yeah.
See, I haven't either because I had, remember, his dad passed away from that, from an internal infection.
I can
And
only think at the moment of one over all the years that I was successful in, and I thought that was just a case of luck. It wasn't just because I knew what I was doing, because I didn't.
Yeah, Sandy I treated a few times before I finally lost him. For like
well,
the
and
same.
I've always wondered that too. Like if you, because I asked Dan this a long time ago because I had a male. It was a hybrid actually, so I wasn't sure he'd ever have fry anyways. But I had a lot of problems with him. He got pouch emphysema. Just I had to treat him for a bacterial infection. A lot of problems with this one seahorse. And I asked Dan, if he were to give me fry, is there something passed on? Like is there maybe not like a disease or whatnot, but a possibility of disease? I can't think of the right word. If my mother, you go to us humans, we go to the doctor, they say, do you have cancer in your family? Do you have heart failure in your family? Because somehow it's not literally passed on. You're not guaranteed to have it, but you're more likely. And if Scrappy Doo was the handicap, right?
No.
No, see, I'm confusing myself. But
Yeah,
still.
Because
Sorry.
Dandy keeps going on with he never gets any kind of illness, but he's got this handicap.
Well, maybe that made him stronger. Who knows? But I'm just saying,
Different
hereditary. Thank you, Vincent. That was the word I was looking for. Maybe there's something that's hereditary that not every seahorse born to that male will have that, but one or two might. I'm throwing out ideas too, because Holly, we know you take care of your tanks. This is crazy.
I think all you can do now, though, is put it in the hospital tank, both of them, and make sure you're changing the water every other day, 50%. And if you're going to go with the meds, you already know how to treat that. But I wouldn't bother with the formalin.
Gotcha.
Because in my opinion, at the moment, what little there would have been there, the freshwater dip would have taken care of it. And it's obvious from the lack of residue that you found there that there was very little.
That it wasn't significant. And then he did eat last night. Like I said, he ate.
Yeah.
And then now,
you're on to
you're on to something. So
Right,
I'm
and I
sending
agree
you
with
right
everything
now,
just said.
Kelly, another
Okay.
so you can see.
Okay,
So
send me the
this is
video because I got a
him.
question to ask while you're sending.
This is him. This
Okay,
will be him today.
while you're sending it, I have a question for Ray and Cheryl. This has always been my question. When I treat a seahorse, whether it be with a freshwater dip, formalin, antibiotics, whatever it might be, and then I stick it back in the tank. Like this scenario just seems like proof to me that the second you put it back in the tank, whatever's wrong in the tank is going to happen again. But that doesn't make sense because all of our other seahorses are fine. So for someone that's
Oh,
dealing with this,
wait. All seahorses don't have the same immune system.
what?
All
All
the
the seahorses
seahorses don't have the same immune system.
So you could have a
Right.
half dozen seahorses in that tank. You might have one or two that are affected at first. The others may not get affected for, say, 6 months or even a year down the road.
Or at all.
But
Right.
if you rectify things, then they won't get affected at all. So just
But
because other seahorses aren't showing signs of a problem doesn't mean you don't have a problem in the tank.
so what you're saying is he took the seahorse out, freshwater dipped, it reacted, but not much. So that's probably not the problem. But whatever the problem was, the freshwater dip did help because he came back to the tank and ate. And then the next day he stopped eating again. So that means something's going on with the tank. Is
The thing is,
that right?
It could have been just
Or it could
an
be the
intermittent problem
seahorse
at the time there. I still think
Okay.
they've got to go into new water in a hospital tank. Now, if you had them in there and they recuperate, say 3-4 weeks down the road, everything's all fine, and then put them back in. If they get the problem back again, then there's a problem in the tank.
All right. Thank you, Zen Ginger. I saw your comment and thank you. Yes, hit the like button. And guys, we're discussing this topic, but any topics you want discussed, it's open chat. We'll discuss them. Cheryl, what were you going to
well,
say?
I'm thinking back to when I first started working with tiger tails, hippocampus combs, and myself and one other person were working with him, and we had disasters because they were coming in from Southeast Asia. They were typically wild caught. I mean, it was a mess. And we literally were able to send off a specimen to a pathologist who did a histopathology on them. And we determined that they were actually infected with uronema. Pedal forward about a year and a half, got in another pair that was truly wild caught, looked like crap, skinny as rails. And I spent 6 months medicating them with a variety of different things, including bacterial medications and parasitic medications. I spent 6 months getting up every morning and rushing in to see if they were still alive, quite literally. They lived 9 years with me. But I guarantee you, if I hadn't done that, what I did, I would have lost them in less than a year. Because that was the handwriting on the wall before that. We learned a lot through that process.
And thank God for you doing that. But in this case,
Yeah.
Holly, this is a seahorse that was born in Holly's house that, that has been fine for years and all of a sudden has a problem. That it bothers me so much when this kind of thing happens because it's just struggling to figure out what's going on. Holly, did you want me to share the video?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Okay, and what are we looking at?
So this is Scrappy Doo today chasing Sadie around.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, for the most part, he's acting normal. It's
Right.
just the eating thing that's. So I'm going to try again, like when it gets dark here, probably another half hour or so, I'll disappear for a while and see if he wants to eat, because that's when he ate, was last night. It's like he waited till after lights out and then he wanted to eat. So I'm just going to try that and see if he does it again.
Well, that'll be interesting.
He acts
if he
like
does
he
eat.
wants to eat. He's watching the dish. He looking at the turkey baster, but it's almost like he doesn't want to come to the plate. I don't know.
Right. Well, and what is the difference between, like, how can you determine, like I mentioned weak snick earlier, but that's just kind of an overall say for a seahorse not eating, right? Something's wrong. They're not eating. They're not snicking. But I mean, what are your guys' thoughts on this? That she should just try to feed later, and maybe, like Ray, you said you think it's something internal, so
When you
try to
have it
treat
in the
bacterial.
hospital tank, make sure you count the pieces of food you put in. And
Oh,
when you
good.
get your brine shrimp, also count the numbers of brine shrimp that you put in there so that you're able to know for sure just how much, if any, they are feeding on.
Well, I'm just bummed.
Yeah, he may still be feeling a little off and be a little more aware of his surroundings than normal because he's not feeling quite normal. And that might explain why you haven't seen him eat. He may be eating. And
well,
Ray
he can't be eating without me seeing because I'm always right there when they eat. Like here,
Yeah.
I'll send you. Here's the video of him eating last night.
Oh, good. Yeah.
So you can see that.
He looked good last night eating.
Well, yeah, and
fine.
you should take you should take a video of him not eating, because that's a really good thing to show, like when because I know exactly what you're talking about. When they stare at the food, when they, even go
but he
near the
won't
food,
even
but they
come to
won't
the
eat
dish.
it.
If he's
He
not
won't go near
eating, he doesn't come to the dish. He'll sit on a hitch nearby and be like looking at everybody else and looking at.
But he won't go. Yeah.
But if he's gonna eat, he comes to the and I'm right there.
Yeah.
I can see it and video it, so I'll know if he's eating or not. Yeah, in that.
Hey, wanted to say, hey, RG Reef, thanks for joining us. Sorry, I was just saying hi to everybody who joined, and don't forget next week we have a guest coming, and we're going to talk bacteria and Vibrio. It's going to be awesome for even reef keepers. So make sure you're here next week. Sorry, Holly, go ahead.
And I was saying, in that tank, they won't eat off the floor. They will only eat out of the dish, which is so funny because Dandy eats out of his dish on the ground, right? But he won't eat the food that's on the ground dish. He'll only eat what's in that dish and waits for me to suck it up and put it back in the dish, and then he'll eat it. It's funny.
Actually, I have a question about that. I have a real serious question about that.
Dandy
I have a question.
To the dish and made it yesterday. He swam to the feeding station for the first time in a long time.
Yay, Dandy. But I have a question about that because I've had seahorses act that way even currently. And I've noticed it's when, like in my tank, it's when there is an explosion of the little critters, the copepods, whatever they are. They're all over the glass and all over the floor. And if there's algae like growing on the bare bottom, I've noticed they don't want to eat off of it. Is it because that infects them or it gets down their throat? Or I'm just wondering, like, why won't seahorses sometimes eat off the floor?
I don't know. I don't have that. And in my other tank, they eat off the floor. So I think it's just what the ones in that tank got used to.
Because now they're spoiled.
And now they're spoiled. Yeah, I totally think that's it with them.
Gotcha. Okay. Did you send it? I'm trying to see.
It's got a little bit of the circle.
Okay.
Yeah, it's
all right. Well, I am just very bummed out that Scrappy Doo is not pregnant and that you're having these troubles. I will update in my case. I know I promised you guys the video showing the candlelight or flashlight to tell if a seahorse is pregnant, and it's just been a shit week. I'm sorry. I haven't gotten the video done. I will. But I am 99% sure my seahorse is pregnant, so that's good.
Awesome.
But yeah, well,
better get ready.
But I'm still bummed out that I'm still bummed out that Scrappy Doo is not.
Yeah. Now I'm almost ready for fry, and I don't have any. So.
Uh,
I went and got all the stuff. That was what I
It-
ordered the formalin for, actually. But it's taken so
For the
long to
fry?
get here. Here we go. That
Just
video.
keep it in the dark and keep it cool. You may need it down the road. I always keep formalin on hand for that reason.
Yeah, I have some. It went bad. I think it got too cold for it or something. I think Ray said something about that if it gets in a cold
Yeah,
temperature.
you got to check it because it
Yeah.
becomes toxic.
Yeah.
Vincent said, "Cool on your Seahorse, Kelly. It'll be your
Yeah.
grandbabies." So
Yeah.
even though the male isn't from you, the female was.
Female was.
So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But and Tanya said, or Tana, sorry, said that my female is the only that eats out of the dish. That's interesting. None of my seahorses eat out of the dish. I've just noticed that if the tank is dirty, they don't want to eat off the floor.
They don't
It
want you
could
off
be
the
just
floor. Like, that's
yeah.
a dirty plate.
Yeah, really. I mean, they'll eat it out of the water column, but not off the floor.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so that video just went through.
Okay, let me see.
If you want to.
And it was on Messenger, right?
Yeah, so it's in your messenger.
All right, here we go. Hang on. Let's share how Scrappy Doo was eating last night. Oh, look at him. He's attacking the shit.
Yeah, look at him go. Yeah. No, he did all right with it last night. And then, he ate for a little while and then he went and hitched up for the night for bedtime.
And who is that?
There comes Candy to help him out at the end.
But that's so funny that she called you over to the tank to feed him. That's so crazy.
She was doing a mad dance and she had just ate. I mean,
Yeah.
I just fed them and I never feed them at that time unless I'm away from home, and come home late. But she was pretty adamant. So I'm like, okay. And he was sitting there looking. I'm like, well, maybe he'll eat. Okay, we'll try. So
And
he
did. And she's doing the love nose touch, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't have noses, but you know what I mean. And then she cleans up for him. Man, she is the mama of the tank, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, any thoughts on that? The rest of you guys, like why he ate last night and won't eat today?
Well, his respiratory rate is significantly better in the picture that I saw today.
Okay.
Because yesterday he was trigger breathing and obviously in very serious distress.
Mm-hmm.
And the picture I saw today, he was not using his trigger to try to breathe. He was not hyperventilating. His face was basically the same color as the rest of him. It wasn't white and pale looking. And he didn't seem at all stressed.
Tana said, my male loves for me to hand feed him. Please share that video in Seahorse Whisperer group on Facebook or share it with me so we can see that, because I love when seahorses eat from hand. That's so cool. Love it. But yeah, I think you're doing everything you can, Holly. I don't know what else,
Yeah, I don't know. And I mean, if there's something, that I can't really help, I mean, I'd rather be happy and he'd be happy and live his life out, with his friends.
I'm still wondering if the metrodiazole would be beneficial because it has both antibacterial and antiparasitic components in it.
Yeah, I have that on order, and I think that's what I'll probably try.
I would
on
try that.
Comes.
Because I mean
it's a combination.
Yeah, the formalin obviously worked. The bath that or the hot freshwater bath that you gave him obviously helped him out.
Freshwater dip helped him enough to where he ate again. So so he must have been uncomfortable enough. I mean, he may have other stuff going on. Like Ray says, he probably has something internal going on also, and that might have been just the icing on the cake.
The thing is, depending on the type of parasite you've got, they can actually leave lesions in soft tissue where they have embedded. And then when they die, you've got a whole open area of potential contamination that is bacterial in origin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the metro, if you get the metro, it has both.
Mm-hmm.
Great point, Cheryl. Hit both, nail it both. if you
Mhm.
can. But I mean, as you said, that's always been my question too, is if you do have a seahorse who is in distress and you can't figure out exactly what's going on, it is a struggle. Do you want him just to live
Mhm.
the rest of their life happy, or you trying to fix him?
Mhm.
It's hard. It's
Mhm.
hard. I don't know. Don't know.
Yeah,
But
it's discouraging when you lose one,
absolutely.
especially when you've had them for a long time. It
Mhm.
really is.
Mhm.
Shyla said, does the Metroplex need to be ingested?
No, you can treat it like in a hospital tank.
Can you use it though in an ingestion form? Like, can you
Yeah,
feed
I
it
think
to?
so. Like, because I ordered Focus also, and I'm not sure if you need that with it for the brine shrimp, because my plan was to have the brine shrimp.
Well, the
Yeah,
focus, when it comes to live foods, and the brine shrimp only ingest particulate matter.
Mhm.
A lot of people, because they're considered to be filtered feeders, they think they're
Mhm.
taking the water through and
Mhm.
ingesting that water and getting the nutrient in that, medicines or whatever.
Like soaking it up.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
it's not like that. It's more like, say, a worm where the worm sticks up,
Mhm.
uh, comes out of its casing and
Mhm.
captures particulate matter, goes down inside, captures it,
Mhm.
or feeds on it then. A brine shrimp captures with hind,
Their little legs.
there's a
Mhm.
word for it and I can't pull it out right now. Anyway,
Mhm.
then when it captures the particles, it then passes it through it along a channel with the frontmost legs on it until it
Mhm.
gets to the mouth, puts it into the mouth, and then feeds on it. Now, that means there is some moisture that's going to go along with the food that it puts in. It's
Mhm.
just not any amount to give anything significant to do what you need to do for getting the medicine into them. So you feed something like spirulina powder with focus and then the medication as well. And the
That's
focus
what I
will
was
bind
thinking.
a liquid medicine to the spirulina, and then the brine shrimp will eat the spirulina powder. If you
So
don't
is it
want to use
because of the
spirulina powder,
size? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
if you don't want to use spirulina powder, you're going to have to emulsify the medication. And you can use that with an egg yolk.
Mhm.
That's suitable for using as an emulsifier.
Mhm.
And that will give particulate matter so that that can be ingested. Um, what were you going to
Now
say?
I have
No,
spirulina
I
powder,
wondered. I wondered
so
if
I
it
would
was.
mix the 3 together, the spirulina powder, the Focus, and the
Yeah,
Metroplex
yeah,
together and feed it to the brine shrimp.
yeah.
And
With
then
adults, it'll take 3 to 4 hours to get them properly gut loaded.
okay, thanks.
If you
Okay,
if you
and
were
so
using
I'm
something for
glad you
fry,
brought that up because I was thinking that, and that's why I got all those things. I was thinking, well, I'm gonna have to give their food the medication, the
yeah,
brine
right.
shrimp, the food medicated. Okay.
So basically, the bottom line is dumping medication into a bucket with Artemia isn't going to work. But is that because of the size? Or I know you just said it, but for me, a common person, I'm trying to understand is it because of the size and it's not particulate matter? Or is it because the focus
if it's
binds it?
not particulate matter, they can't grab onto it.
So the focus turns it into particulate matter.
No, the focus binds it to the food,
Okay, the spirulina. Got it.
the
Okay.
spirulina,
That's what I
and
was.
then they can capture the spirulina.
So what I got is Metroplex, which is a powder, I believe.
Yeah, but does it dissolve?
it
It
does.
would, yeah, because you put it just like the
Yeah, if it's going to
Saltaplex
dissolve
in
in
Canada.
water, then it's now liquid.
Okay, and then mix
Like
that
if you
with
put
the
salt
food.
in water, it dissolves. How are the Artemia going to capture the salt
Mhm,
if it's dissolved?
So I've
mhm,
never used Focus though. And I'm curious, do you need to combine these products together before you add them to the Artemia, or can you just dump all three in and it
Yeah,
works?
just dump in the Focus and the medicine and the spirulina
And it'll
and
mix.
Yeah.
put it all
And
together
leave them
and
in it about 4 hours.
3 to 4 hours.
Okay.
Zen, assuming like freshwater that you can soak freeze dried foods in the meds if your fish will eat the non live foods, correct?
Yes.
All right. Cool. Cool. What other questions, Holly?
Oh,
And-
none. I'm just writing that down so I remember it when all the medications get here.
What were you going to ask when I interrupted you, Kelly?
Oh, Ray, come on, man. I have cognitive impairment too. I don't remember. Sorry, I'm trying to deal with kids on the side too. But no, I don't even
Am I
remember.
the only one here with dementia, old age dementia?
We're all fogies.
What was that?
But what was that? He
I
said,
didn't hear what you
love it.
said.
Oh, I thought you were kidding. She said, am I the only one here with dementia? We're talking about us all being fogies.
Well, everybody's throwing stuff out. I figured I'd jump in.
Well, I don't have dementia yet, but I know it's going to come. I'm just trying to do everything I can possibly to stave it off. So, good place to get information is the NIH.
Oh, I've already got several different doctors I go to just between my vision problem that I had, and that's finally getting fixed, and fracturing my hip and stuff. I've had a few go rounds.
Well, and I don't have, go ahead.
I like the NIH because I can teach my doctor some things.
Yes. Well,
I'm on
Go
a
Ray.
medication right now she never even heard of before.
Dan does that stuff too. He goes in and
Yeah.
schools the doctors. I would say I don't have dementia, but I have Wine Wednesday, right? Wine. Anyways,
What's my excuse? I don't drink.
yeah, well, I don't know. I can't give your excuse for you, Ray.
They say that if you get older too, you should drink less because it really isn't good for you.
I know it's not good for you, period. I know.
I
try
drank too
to
much when I did drink.
I try to keep my drinking to Wine Wednesday and MACNA events. Of course, you got to get crazy at those events, but and I think we're going to try to expand and start doing some of the other events, Aquashella and such. I know the person that runs it, so we're going to try to do more Seahorse. I just want to spread the Seahorse word in world, I guess. So, anyways, what else, you guys?
Oh,
got-
I just thought of a question.
Go ahead.
Now, if I'm feeding the other seahorses brine shrimp too, and it's ingested the Metroplex, is that not good? Like, is it like the other antibiotics where they have to be on it for 10 days?
Are you talking about the ones that aren't problematic?
The ones that aren't sick, like let's say I put some
wouldn't
of the
even be feeding them.
medicated brine shrimp in.
I wouldn't even be feeding them the brine shrimp.
Why?
Well, for decades, I cultured brine shrimp, and I used to sell them to fish stores around here. But when I got into the seahorses, I only fed them about once a week, one meal a week on live brine. You don't want to get them
Used to it.
too interested in the live brine because then they're going to wait and sort of force you to feed them that. They'll ignore
Gotcha.
the
Good
frozen food.
point.
And that doesn't happen with all of them, but it does happen with some, and it's not worth taking the chance.
Good point. Thanks.
Sure. Well, and speaking of that, with Zen Ginger might back me up here. I had a situation back when I was in my freshwater days where I figured out that the reason that I was having trouble with my discus was because they were being fed foods in the store before I got them, foods that were medicated, right? So this store had specific medication, like not medication, not even medications,
Supplement.
but I don't remember some
Supplement.
sort of supplements that they were binding with the food and feeding to the discus so they'd be bright and colorful and pretty and whatever in the store, but they didn't tell me. So when I went home, they were no longer getting that thing. And then it was a big problem because they weren't thriving. So, I get the point. Don't continually feed something like that. But in Holly's case, if she thinks there's something going on in the tank, why does feeding medicated brine shrimp, live brine shrimp to seahorses that aren't sick cause are we talking about the case where then they have no resistance to
Yeah,
the
I'm just
thing?
wondering
Okay.
about that. Is it, and the same for like the hospital tank? Is that like a 10-day treatment, like the Furan 2 and the Sulfaplex and all that would be?
Yeah.
So I probably don't want to expose any of the other seahorses to it.
If you have a
Sounds
problem
like
in that tank,
they're
that's
getting
rectifying. Don't feed them the ones that aren't a problem. Don't feed them the medication. Find the
Okay.
problem and fix it. And maybe you're not going to find it. Maybe you're just going to have to do another upgrade on keeping your water better quality. When I got to the level of water changes that I did get to with most of my tanks, it wasn't because I knew for a fact that that was the level that I needed. It was just strictly by experimenting, and I found that once I got to that point, I wasn't having any problems anymore. Maybe it was more than what was actually needed, but I didn't want to go back to anything else and
Sure.
Yeah.
because it's not something that always shows up in a hurry. I could back off, and it might be 6 months or a year before it ended up showing a problem. So
No,
I'd rather
I
overdo
totally
it than
agree with
underdo
that.
it.
I totally agree with that. And I would say, I do want to do this shout out. I posted about it, but when we had Poisonon's Kitchen Aquaculture on, and we talked about, and our most previous guest, when we talked about the fact that oxygen matters in these tanks, when I adjusted my returns on the all in one so that they were dropping into, creating a waterfall into the tank, all of a sudden, no more cloudy in my tank. It was amazing. And when I took Ray's advice and stopped being lazy and started doing bigger water changes, that probably helped too. But I'm just saying it was incredible. I did a post about it showing I can't believe it went from every day there was this dusky, cloudy, whatever to nothing clear.
It was
It
the
was
water
nuts.
surface turmoil that you created by having the water drop into it, and it promoted that gas exchange. So it's not just
Yep.
a case of oxygenation, it's a case of getting out the bad gas out of it.
Oh, well, that makes sense too. But I also did bigger water changes like you advised me to. So yeah, just so glad for Wine Wednesday where I get these advices and we talk and share and I can figure things out and hopefully it helps everyone else too. Zen Ginger, lots of fish lose color and size if they're being in essence pumped up to look pretty, i.e. foods or hormones, then they go back to standard living conditions. Bad salesmanship happens all the time. Yep, that's exactly. I didn't say poke. Did I say Pokemon? Poseidon. I can't say
Poseidon.
that word. Poseidon. Thank you. Poseidon.
I don't
Kitchen
think you
Aqua.
said Pokemon. If you did, I thought I would have caught it.
Well, I probably said it wrong. I always do. But anyways. And don't forget, guys, if you want a topic discussed on Wine Wednesday, if there's no topic and no guest, we just talk about whatever's going on with us because this is a community. You guys join us, we talk about whatever. But if you want a topic discussed, we can focus in on anything. I really want to get Dan in here for Ask Seahorse Source Part 4 because trying to figure out how to enrich for fry was terrible for me. It was awful trying to figure it out. Having him explain it really helped me. So just don't forget if there's a topic you want to dive into it. But
I'm off the feed.
you're what? Oh, Ray's gone. Okay. Anyways, did we handle all? Are you where you need to be, Holly?
Not quite, but I mean, as far as questions, I mean, I think I just still need to figure out, what's going on.
Yeah.
And I'm still waiting for all my stuff to get here, so I don't know when that's going to happen. Like we were talking about weather and stuff, everything seems to be coming from the East Coast and having a hard time getting across the country right
Ugh,
now. So
It's supposed to be
such
bad
a
again
pain.
tomorrow.
So we'll see. So yeah, the Metroplex won't be here till next week. The formalin should have been here. That it said April 4th through 6th, and now it's saying will be delivered by tomorrow. But when I go to the actual UPS tracking,
Yeah.
they lost track of it on the 3rd. So
Hmm.
I have no clue
They
where it
never
is at
update those
this point.
things until sometimes they don't even update them when they're out for delivery. They just show up at your door. That's my experience with them anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, so that could be the case with that one.
Well, and you're
But it
not going to
sounds
use the
like I
formalin.
probably won't use
Right.
that anyway.
Right.
I'll be using the Metroplex, and I think that comes here like midweek next week. So I don't even have anything to treat him with yet. So I'll probably just leave him alone and try to get him eating,
Yeah.
and see how
If
that
you
Well,
get
and
your
when you go ahead.
formalin earlier before you get anything else, just for safekeeping, you could treat them in your display with the formalin, similar to what you do with newborn fry. And
But I thought it hurt your biofilter. I don't think you can do that
Yeah.
in the display tank. And I do another thing I was thinking about too, actually with the Metroplex maybe. I'll have to see because I've never used it. I have to see how far it goes. But I only have left in that tank 2 crabs that I think we talked about that are kind of on their way out. They're slowing down. They
Right.
don't walk around a whole lot. So, depending on if the Metroplex is safe for the biofilter, I might just take the crabs out and put them in a tank and treat the
Metro's an
tank.
antibiotic, which means it's going to crash your biofilter.
Oh,
So does
so
formalin,
no,
though.
can't do
It's an
that.
So does
antibiotic and
formalin.
an antiparasitic. It's a combined. That's the reason it's effective. Is it is a dual purpose medication, but the Metro is actually
It's an
yeah.
antibiotic too. Gotcha. So yeah, I can't do that though.
But
It would make it a lot easier.
but formalin too. Like I've always been told, never do that. Do formalin in your display tank. When you're talking about a fry tub, it's a different kind of system. Like
Because it's all sterile, you don't have
right.
The
biofilter. But
thing
yeah,
is,
I read
I have on
to use
occasion
form.
used formalin. Formalin. Anyway, I have used it in a display tank, but only when I had everything ready to do a 75% water change.
Right. And it's in low
Uh,
doses. Like I mean,
Yeah,
I would just
exactly.
say anybody
that,
new, please don't use formalin in your display
Don't
tank. Please don't.
do as I say, not as
yeah.
I do.
Right. Right. Hey,
Yeah,
Tana,
I'm not gonna put formalin in the display.
Tana wanted to know, how old do they have to be before they start breeding
6
seahorses?
months.
I
Mhm.
wouldn't give such a definitive answer. I think it more matters
About
their size, their, what,
Dan always says as soon as the males have a pouch, they're ready.
yeah.
I've had males
Sandy
under 6
Sandy
months.
started at 5 months.
I've had males under 6 months court, inflate their pouch, and try to impress the ladies. The ladies are usually a little more resistant than the males are. But occasionally you get that one female who finally figures out to find her mate in the back of the tank behind the rocks and nobody can see them. Then the
Yep.
next thing you know is you have fry in your tank.
Well, I mean, it does. Like you're saying, Cheryl, it depends.
Sandy and Sandy were right away. They were 5 months. I had just got them, and within a month they were having fry.
I feel like most seahorses are sold, again, not based on months. I'm just giving an average here. It's based on their size.
Mhm.
They're sold when they're able to be sold. They're of the correct height, etc. But I feel like some seahorses are sold as small as 4 months, and they do go at each other right away. But it's more about when you'll get viable fry, right?
Yeah.
When the fry will be good.
The difference is larger, older adults not only produce more fry typically with each brood, they produce the larger fry. And
Yep.
I've got actual pictures of first-time pairs, their fry versus a year later. And the difference in the fry development really is substantial.
Well, we need you to share those comparison pictures in the group, Cheryl. but absolutely, and I would say, again, like you just said, it's not just based on when the male develops the pouch. The female has to develop the eggs. So it's like, like humans, we mature at different rates. Who knows? But I would say
females are usually like,
size.
Why are you bugging me here? I'm not
Right.
interested.
Holly's going to see if Scrappy Doo's hungry for sure. We want him fed.
Some of us never mature.
What, Ray?
Some of us never mature.
Right. That's true too. I absolutely agree with that one for sure.
See, I have a problem. A lot of people, their seahorses don't reproduce for long times. I typically get a pair, and within weeks, I'm like, "Oh, you didn't already do that, did you?"
Well, and that's one of the articles I want to put up is well, we talked last week about conditioning, because if you want fry, there are things you can do. There are tricks with lighting. There's tricks with live foods. I mean, there are tricks. And I want to know more about Focus, Ray, because I never used it, but I know many of the medications I've used have recommended it. So can you tell me a little bit more about why it's needed? Like I know you said it binds the medication to the food, but how does it do that? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know how it does it.
Oh, okay.
That's something,
it just works.
That's something you need chemists for. And as a matter of fact, it probably has to be specific chemists, because to the best of my knowledge, it's the only product available out there that will do it. So there's only one company that has developed that. Now,
Seahorse?
maybe it's just the others never saw much of a market for it. I don't know. But for me, I think I bought the Focus, but I never really got around to using it that I can recall, because it was so much easier for me to use an emulsifier. I have less of them, and that's the product in the egg yolk that does the emulsification. And I have that product that I use when I'm making bologna and sausages, wieners, that kind of stuff. And so it was just, when I needed to emulsify a medication, then I just put some of that in.
So you had a special product on your, but why do we, and we'll try to get somebody from CChem to come on the show and talk to us about it. I will do my best. But why don't we need Focus for things like enrichment? Is it just?
You do. If you haven't got enriched or an emulsified enrichment, a liquid enrichment is not going to do any good.
Okay.
It'll be just a very marginal effect, just like the liquid medications. So I've been telling people for so many years, and this is a point where Dan and I disagree.
No.
I've studied with Artemia since the early 90s, and got hooked up with the Artemia Reference Center at the University of Ghent. And with the people there, that was an emphatic point that they brought up. They don't feed on liquids.
So some of these enrichments aren't working either. That's interesting.
Liquid enrichment, there's very little ever going to get into them.
But they would with Focus.
With the Focus, if you feed them appropriately sized food that the Focus can bind the medication to, then they're going to get enriched. So
something like Dan's feed wasn't a liquid. You could
put Focus. Dan's feed, that was a powder. So
yes,
that didn't have to be emulsified. But
Got it.
when you people that use Celcon or Celco, both of those are emulsions. Although I believe I've heard that they have powdered versions of it for some
Now,
cases now. I think in the commercial parts of it, they have powder for them. But they have emulsions because the enrichment can't be fed to most things without it being particulate matter.
interesting. I wish they'd just sell stuff that just worked. I wish they didn't take all this extra stuff, but I get it.
I used to add Algamac 3050, which is it's pretty well all DHA. I'm trying to think. It's Schizochytrium, I think is the algae that it is, and Dan used it in his formulation to get the DHA in
Sure.
that enrichment.
Sure. Tana said that her current seahorses are not showing signs of mating yet. They don't dance. Is it always a morning dance for you guys though? Because for me, it's
I
not the
had
morning
lots that
dance.
never did it.
What did you say, Ray?
I had lots that never did a morning dance.
Right. What by the morning dance? Because
Well,
mine court all day
some of them
long.
will, when the lights come on, it takes them a bit to get going, but then they'll start. The male will go to the female. Actually, I think it was more often the female went to the male in the morning for the ones that did that. And she would move around them until finally they would start doing sort of a dance like they do when they want to stimulate the female to produce the eggs, and then do their spiral to do the transfer. But I had some that would do this in the morning, and as far as I could tell, it had nothing to do with the procreation, that it was just a greeting that they would go through. But then I had lots more that never ever did that first thing in the morning.
See, with my seahorses, current ones anyways, the 3 of 5 of them are wrapped around the Robert King chamber and they're nose to nose anyways when I turn on the lights. And the other 2 are kind of loners and they're doing their thing and they don't give a shit about the other seahorses. They just kind of wake up. They do dance, but it's no connection. Now, I will say though, now that I think this male is pregnant, I've mentioned before, the female goes to check on him.
Yeah.
She goes and finds him and, wants to make sure he's cool. And
she's
what?
waiting to dump those, get rid of those eggs so she can deposit more.
Ray, I said already, I failed this week. I got too busy. I didn't get it done, but I'm going to get it done tomorrow and post something and show you guys the candling for sure.
My favorite is when the 2 young males get together and start dancing with each other.
Oh, yeah.
I can sit there and just laugh watching them. And it gets crazy sometimes, especially when one of them thinks it's the female, and the other one thinks it's the male. And all of a sudden they both have pouches and you wake up one morning and they're opposite ends of the tank. They hate each other all of a sudden.
You can't tell with seahorses. And Shyla said mine does, but to establish a bond. I think that's more the point. They're just, some seahorses are bonded and they care, they're friends. I mean, Holly describes constantly her tanks. They have little like soap opera lives. I mean, they have things that they do every day. And
aren't you women that make it a soap opera?
Oh, shush, Ray. It's the seahorse.
It depends on the size of the male, to be totally honest. The bigger and beefier the male is, the less likely he is to be challenged, and the more likely the females are going to be going after him.
I don't know, man. I had my females going after smaller males. Holly said that, oh, okay, let's show. Holly said that Scrappy Doo is eating. No, she said Scrappy Doo's eating, which is great. Let's see what she's sending me. All right, I'll try to share it with you guys because we want Scrappy Doo to eat for sure. Hang on, this is Scrappy Doo currently. So my next question, as we watch Scrappy, I was just telling them that, Holly, and as we watch Scrappy Doo eating, could it maybe be that he was just stressed out and that's why he didn't eat today?
Maybe, yeah, because maybe he only wants to eat at night
When
right
he's
now
alone.
because he feels comfortable. I moved the dish over to his area where he's hitched for the night,
Oh,
and he came right over and started eating as soon as I put the food.
Yay!
And then
Yay, Scrappy
Candy's
Doo.
over at the other dance, at the other dish, doing a dance like "Feed Me Too." So I gave her a little bit, and
Candy's
then I'll go back in a few minutes and vacuum out the leftovers. But no, he's just going to town on it like
yeah.
normal.
He's probably still feeling a little off, and he doesn't want to get into any kind of a rowdy thing with another seahorse right now.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe after a freshwater dip, give your seahorse a break. Let him be moody for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be good.
Well, he's been 24 hours now out of the formalin.
Today's day.
Hasn't been
Well,
in formal
when did
yet.
I do it? No, it's been over 24 hours.
It was
24
2
hours
days.
was yesterday. This was
Yeah.
2 days ago. So
But it wasn't formalin, it was a freshwater dip.
it was, I did a freshwater dip. And after
Yeah.
the freshwater dip, though, I almost lost him.
Yeah.
He
Not
was
good.
bad. After the freshwater dip, he couldn't breathe very well for a while.
Well, he was trigger breathing, is what he
And
was
his
doing.
yeah, Cheryl saw, I think it took him a while to come around. Like his eyes weren't even working like they look when they're dying, when they don't focus
Follow
on
you. They don't follow you.
Yeah, so it looked bad, but he came around, took him a few hours, and then he didn't eat the meals that day. But like I said, at nighttime, like about this time, the lights go out. And that was when Candy got my attention. And I'm like, well, I'll try again. So he didn't eat today either. It was kind of the same thing. It's like he's shy of the feeding stations, but he's interested in them.
Well,
So that's why I went back after dark and to see if maybe that has something to do with it. And
maybe whatever's going on with him, he wants to be incognito. He wants to eat when it's dark.
Yesterday, or it was either yesterday or the day before, his whole snout, everything from his eyes down, was almost white, and then he had the trigger extended for prolonged periods. That tells me he was feeling really rough.
Yeah. Well, and you can see in his freshwater, I mean, he didn't, I've seen worse, like Ray said. I've seen them really thrash around in the freshwater dip. But the way he was snapping his trigger from it, you saw that in the freshwater dip, told me that he did have something going on there that was irritating him. And it irritated him enough to where afterwards, see, I have never seen a seahorse come out of the freshwater dip so bad to where I thought I might lose them over that.
Oh, he definitely had a problem going on there that you caught early. There's no doubt about that. Just from looking at the photograph of him. I mean, I've seen a lot of seahorses that needed freshwater dips, and he definitely was one. I didn't want to say it the other day, but he definitely looked bad coming out of it.
Yeah, coming out of it, he was feeling rough for sure.
His trigger was stuck out.
Like you guys said, that may be not the only thing. He may have an infection on top of that, and that's why he had such a hard time coming out.
It could be.
And is having a hard time now. So I'm going to try, I think, that Metroplex when it comes and see.
Yeah.
I still think parasitic action.
What's that, Ray?
I still think you're making too much of this parasitic problem.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously, you've said you didn't see much residue in there.
No, I didn't. I didn't.
And that's impossible if there's any degree of
Uh-huh.
parasitic infection in the seahorse.
Mm-hmm.
You know, though, you talk about this
But I
white.
don't see very well either. I'm practically blind, so who
I
knows?
was just gonna say, when I've done a
I
freshwater
just
dip,
didn't notice. I didn't pay
hey,
attention, honestly, either.
right, I was gonna say, when I've done a freshwater dip without a magnifying glass or whatever, I've never seen any white substance, even when a seahorse went freakishly crazy. So I think
Well, the
you have to
water
know
would
what you're
be
looking for.
cloudy, right? Would the water
Well, I
be
don't see
cloudy?
well, and I see it anytime there is any.
So you're looking
Huh.
for what? Cloudy water, white little
Well,
specks?
it's
Residue?
like little bits of uh, uh, some say you were feeding some frozen mysid and had a bunch of little
Speck
pieces
pieces.
and
Mhm.
only real fine stuff. And the parasites usually have it's usually whiter in color than what
Okay.
the mysid pieces would be, but it's there to a significant amount. Like any time that the freshwater dip is killing any off, you're going to see it.
Okay, well that's interesting. As Holly said, I guess I just never looked. But now we know freshwater
Well,
dip.
some
Yeah, yeah.
people never.
I wish I
Some
would have
people just
paid more
assume.
attention.
Yeah, some people just assume it was there and don't think of looking.
Right.
And
Well,
see, I
now we're
didn't.
making a point.
I
Right.
didn't, and there may have been, and I didn't notice it.
Okay,
But
so
you're
now we
right,
know.
Ray, because in the thrashing around thing too, he didn't thrash around as much as when he was younger. See, because when I raised the fry, I gave them formalin,
Right.
in their tanks. And when they grew up and I moved them into the display tank, both Scrappy Doo and Sadie started itching.
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave them freshwater dips, and they had the reaction like, they were thrashing around more extreme than what Scrappy Doo did
I've
today, but they
often
were
wondered that.
smaller. They
I've
were
often
smaller. They were juvenile.
Yeah, but I've often wondered that too. If when we raise seahorse fry, if we create too sterile of an environment, how they'll do in a normal actual tank. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
they're going from formalin and no ciliates and so sterile to somebody's tank. It's not
And
going
I
to be
They
good.
haven't
never have
had
no
an
affiliate.
affiliate issue since, but I'm wondering if when I gave them the live mysids, if that brought in something, because those are wild caught. They're
Possible
not
too.
cultured. So I'm wondering if that might have brought something into my system. And I put them in both the systems, the
Uh,
mysids. That's the
Yeah,
one
but
thing.
but but the part that bothers me about that theory is that
Mhm.
only one seahorse in each tank is having a
Yeah.
problem, and it's
Yeah,
likely something else.
you
See,
If
would
you
think. But then,
added
like Ray says, what about the immunity? What if the others, it just doesn't bother them?
right, but if you
It's
added
hard to
a
say.
no. Okay, so what Ray was saying, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're talking about ciliates and a ciliate infestation,
Mhm,
then a seahorse with better immunity is going to deal better, right? When
mhm,
you're talking about actual being brought in on a
mhm.
feed, that just seems different to me. That seems like it should affect them all or most of them.
Well, I would think it would
I
be
don't agree.
ciliate that were
Well,
brought
I
in,
do.
most likely.
I think
If it
anything that's going to affect seahorses, you're going to have varying degrees.
Right, right. But I
So
just think
whether it's something introduced with that food or not, it's going to be the same way.
yeah.
Mhm,
I actually
mhm.
use a microscope when I'm doing stuff like that to look at what's in there. And you'd be amazed what you find in some of these tanks.
That's for sure.
I mean,
sure, and that's the point is that there are things in the tanks. You can't be ridiculously
yeah.
focused on every little thing because then you can't keep
Yeah.
seahorses. It'd be ridiculous.
I mean, I've
But
done
Mhm.
what bleep bleep more than once when I pulled out the microscopes.
I'm sure, and that's why I don't. And when I had Artemia that I added to a system, and all of a sudden the system had trouble, and I talked to Dan, and I was like, I think it was the Artemia. It had to be blah 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 blah, and he kind of discounted that. He was like, no, 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 because I rinsed it. I made sure that it was clean and whatever. And yeah, they could be dying. I guess there's a possibility of it carrying something, but I just think that live foods are such a good thing for them that you can't be so terrified of something being brought in. I guess is all I'm saying. Maybe that is it. I don't know, but you can't.
Yeah. Well, I
It
gotta
sucks
go
when there's a
and find
situation.
out what's left, whatever they didn't
Okay.
eat. I'm gonna be right back again. And then I saw Zen Ginger's thing, but the thing is, the tanks that I have are pretty sterile. I don't have live rock or anything, corals, nothing in my tanks. It's all artificial. Stuff goes to the bleach bucket, and there's not any worms in there, like bristle worms or anything like that.
Zen
It's
Ginger, the question was, could he have been attacked by some sort of parasite worm while he was feeding and then be feeding shy now because of it? That was the question. And right, I agree with Holly's answer that the tank is sterile. I mean,
the only thing that was different before he stopped eating, I was away for the weekend. And I fed them in the morning before I left. And he wasn't really interested in eating then. He didn't eat much. It was like Saturday morning. And I came home Sunday afternoon and fed everybody. And that's when he stopped eating. That's when he didn't want to eat. And
and
at first I thought, well, is he mad because I was gone? Or
Right.
but then I thought back, I'm like, well, Saturday breakfast, he didn't eat very much. He ate, but he didn't eat a big meal. So at first I was thinking, oh, well, he's holding a grudge, and then I'm like, oh, well, something's wrong, but I couldn't visibly see anything wrong. Like he looked good. His
Yeah,
body looked good. He didn't look like he had an infection. So that's when, and he did look like, but he's always had a big pouch. So it's hard for me to tell. His pouch
yeah.
looks big to me.
Well,
But
Shiloh wants to know, you dose peroxide too, right? I
yes,
mean, that should be controlling the ciliate population.
that's what I'm thinking. But he did have a reaction, so
But
I
like
mean,
Ray said, it wasn't a good
it's not,
enough
yeah, I
reaction.
don't think there's a whole lot of ciliates in there, probably. It's not like the tank's overcome by ciliates. I don't think
No.
so. So he might have multiple things
Yeah.
going on, and maybe he doesn't feel right because of whatever's going on, and that's why he's shy about eating too.
Yep.
I've had males back
Feel
off
sick.
on eating when they're wanting to court, quite
Well,
frankly.
and he's been courting madly for, you've seen him. I mean, he's gung ho. I mean, he might not want to eat much, but he sure does want to go
Yeah.
courting. He wants to be brave.
He could have even gotten himself in a situation where he got a little too busy courting and was forgetting about other things.
Yeah. Right. I mean, unfortunately, this is the bad part of, when something goes wrong with seahorses. There's so many answers that it could be, I mean,
Hard to
I
tell.
think, Holly, you're
Yeah.
doing everything you can to do right by him. And, I think you're on the right path with the Metro. And, I just shy away from trying to find some singular blame, because it could be in the
Yeah.
system. It could be
Well, I may never know.
right.
Life
But
is a lot
anyway, I
easier.
gotta go clean up, and I'll be right back
Please
again.
do.
Life is a lot easier with a microscope because you can take some water out and take it, or if you've done a freshwater dip, you can section off using a sterile eyedropper, put it under a microscope. And sometimes you won't see anything. Sometimes it'll be like, oh my God, where did this come from?
Right.
It'd be nice if we had
Zen
a
Ginger
place
said,
where we could all send dead seahorses
samples.
off to and have a necropsy done so that we would know for sure on it. But many years ago here, the only place I could find out that would do it was at the University of Guelph, an hour away from here, and they wanted over $100
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and then said, I forget exactly what it was, but it was a little over 100. But the price could go up depending on how many tests they had to do.
Mm.
Yep.
And that's just not something
Feasible, right? Yeah. Who's going to do that? Well, I'll tell you, Graham Short joined Seahorse Whisperer group, and Graham Short is an ichthyologist that we had on the show when we first started years ago, and he is amazing. And I'll ask him if there are any resources like that, because you're right, Ray. Like, why do they? It, especially like at college or something, we need to find people that want to do these tests and experiments versus someone who wants money for it, because who's going to pay to find out something after the fact?
I had a friend
right?
that of mine that used to he's a pathologist he teaches. He's a university professor, and before they cracked down on him and told him no more fish in the lab, he was taking in and photographing under an electron microscope and sending us photos of the different diseases and problems. And that was a huge help.
Well, find someone like that again. Cheryl, we need someone like that. Ray, Zen Ginger asked, is the white particulate in the water that you spoke of, like in the freshwater dip, is that just the case in external parasites, or would internal
any
parasites
that are in the gills, in the mouth, that will be expelled. Now, if you're talking about ones in something that's, say, affecting the liver or kidney or something like that, no, something that's that deep internally, that won't be expelled. But I don't think that we've had any indication that we have a serious problem of parasitic action that deep internally. The parasites are usually external or in the gills.
Yep. So something wrong inside isn't going to be the same
Now,
thing.
usually something wrong
here's
inside
a question though.
Say a chemical imbalance that is affecting the kidneys, or an internal bacteria that's attacking the internal organs.
So if it's internal, it's probably not a parasite.
Right.
Okay, got it. That makes sense.
Well, one of the things that
but either way, you'd see it if the parasite was expelled from whatever orifice.
Then it's by internal, if you're including in the gills or in the mouth, the snout and that, then you'd have to say yes.
That's not internal.
I don't consider the gills and that to be internal when I say internal.
Makes sense. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Well, I was going to say some of this stuff too, it's really hard to diagnose when you're looking at it through a microscope to determine whether you're actually looking at it, unless they're still alive. I mean, I've looked at rotifers under a microscope. That's easy. But it can be hard to differentiate when you have, are they dead specimens or are they just junk that came in with the water? And it can,
right.
It makes it difficult sometimes. And
I was going to say, when Graham Short told me, oh, get a microscope and do this, that, and the other, I got the microscope. I looked at the sample and I was like, I'm not a biologist. I don't know what all this shit is. There's things moving. There's things not moving. Is that a piece of dust, or is that,
maybe you didn't get it dialed in to get proper magnification.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe I didn't know what I was looking
at.
Of period.
Salt water out of a tank on a slide and start into it, and just with that drop of water, you can adjust the microscope and see at different levels in that drop, and it's amazing how much small stuff is in there. That small drop can have thousands and thousands of microscopic items in there.
Understood and agreed. Understood and agree, but what we need is some sort of visual for the home hobbyist that I am that says, okay, if you see something that looks like this, that's what it is. Because me looking at a microscope and seeing things means nothing to me. I don't know what it is. Is that good, bad,
I
ugly,
think there's
other?
probably too many scenarios that you wouldn't be able to have sufficient, say, pictures of all the various things there to be able to diagnose. And there would be so many that would be similar that you would still not know the difference.
But
Well,
so for an average hobbyist, my seahorse has a problem. I take a sample, I put it under the microscope. It's going to mean nothing to me. Like, I hate when people recommend that.
Yeah,
I know it's a good thing to recommend, but if you don't have someone to go to say, okay, now what does this mean?
if you
What's the
don't
point?
understand how to use a microscope properly, then
Even using the microscope properly,
yes, but
when you
you
get
can learn
something
that.
clear,
You can go on YouTube and learn how to use a microscope.
and I'm saying, Ray, if someone knows how to use a microscope properly, they can dial in, get a clear visual. You still don't know
You have
what
to
you're
know what
looking
you're
at.
looking at.
I
Well,
mean, that's
You
what
have
I
to be
ran
able to
into. I
identify
ran into
things.
that when I was told to get a sample when I had a problem. And I was like, okay, I see stuff. I can see it. I've
What
dialed
is it?
it in. What is it?
Yeah.
And then, you got to figure out how to get pictures to
No,
post. And it's
I
pain in the ass.
remember that from biology because, yeah, you had to learn how to identify the
Right.
stuff that you're looking at. They had, they'd have pictures and slides, and yeah, and the instructor would show us, okay, if you see this, it's this. If you see that, it's this creature because there's a lot of different things in there.
Then Ginger said, well, you'd know the difference in a bacteria or a parasite. I think those differences are pretty clear usually. Not to me. I wouldn't know the difference.
Hold on for a moment. I'm going to give you a little the background, the little light.
Well, parasite will be swimming.
Those are
generally.
actually adult Apocyclops panamitsus copepods, which are at this stage roughly the size of a newborn baby brine shrimp.
Mm-hmm. And
took photos and used my microscope to get that background.
Oh, okay. No, that's really cool, Cheryl, and I love it, and that's really cool. I'm just saying that if I was looking at your background, I would say, well, first of all of these things look different. They don't look the same to me. And what the heck are they? Right? If I was looking at a sample of water, I'd say, well, I've got this big thing over here, this blob. This one has legs. This one has whatever, and I wouldn't know what the hell I was looking at. So,
Hey, what's really funny is
everybody says go get a microscope so you can diagnose. And I'm like, I can't diagnose anyways.
What's really funny though is watching rotifers under a microscope because they look like little pinwheels going everywhere.
Yeah.
But once you have something there that you suspect, if you've been told that, what am I saying?
Once you know what you think you're looking at, then you can find someone.
Like if you're suspecting ciliates or something that you're looking at and don't know what it actually looks like, then you do a Google search.
Yeah.
Google it.
There's a lot of
find a
different
picture.
looking ciliates. They don't all look the same. But
well, I'm sure some of you have seen.
Wait, let him finish. Let him finish. Go ahead, Ray.
When you Google there, you can find an awful lot, and the chances are that you're going to find something that's going to narrow your field down.
Well, it's like I don't know how many of you have looked at the picture I have of the 6-day-old hippocampus comb spry with the 3 tail fin rays coming off of it.
Yeah, I think I have that somewhere. I don't know if I can find it. Go ahead.
But I'm just saying, when I took that photo, I was shocked. Nobody had ever talked about it before. But I knew what I was looking at because I'd taken it out of my nursery to look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to find it. Right. And you're right. And I get it. And I get why people say get a microscope because that's going to be so helpful. But for me, I got to, how do you take a picture with a microscope?
Well,
I have
usually,
a camera that I can set on top of the lens on the microscope.
See,
usually it has a camera and you can download it to your computer.
Yeah.
that sounds expensive.
No.
That sounds, no?
No, you can buy something
not that
that
expensive.
say a student in high school, a grade 9 or 10 student, you can buy that level of a microscope that's going to do what you need.
I'm talking about how to get the picture. I know the microscope's not expensive. How
Well,
do you
the
get the
instructions come
image?
with it. When you buy it, there'll be a camera with it.
Really?
Yeah, and it'll have a
Yeah.
what do you
The
call
one
it?
I bought didn't have a camera.
Oh,
Maybe I just did it wrong.
It's
Who
got
knows?
I've had two, and
Yeah,
both of them had
for one that
cameras.
does.
Look for one. Well, then that's good advice. Look for one that does. Because if you're an
Yeah.
average hobbyist that isn't a biochemist, scientist, crazy person, or Ray or Cheryl,
I've never spent over $50 on one.
Hey,
holy moly.
My microscope.
I haven't done a microscope in a long time.
Yeah,
Not these back.
they might be more than.
Okay, we're all talking at once. I'm louder than all of you, so I'm going to stop.
It
Okay,
might be more than 50 now, though.
Ray, they're more than 50. Holly, what were you saying?
She doesn't remember.
I was saying
Sorry.
I had microscopes back in the 80s. You know, when I was in school, I really looked at all, but I bet, yeah, the technology is pretty amazing now. Like I bet, yeah, like people were saying, I think Zen Ginger can hook them up via USB and record as you're looking. So yeah, I haven't checked it out. I'll have to, because I'm sure there's
Well,
stuff
Zen
they didn't
Ginger,
have. Yeah.
Cheryl, I'm going to let you talk, I promise. But Zen Ginger also said if you can narrow it down by symptoms and have a specimen, then you can probably Google better. Absolutely. In my case, I did. Please get with me on the side. I need to know how to hook it up to USB to take images, because basically I was just telling like someone like Graham Short, okay, it looks round and it has little antennas. I don't know, because you don't know. You take a water sample,
Yeah.
God only knows.
See
For
if
an
you can
average
buy a
hobbyist
camera.
like me, I have a Nikon. I just didn't know how to hook it up to it.
No, but see if you can buy a camera made for your
Right. Cheryl, what were you saying? I want to let you talk.
I was going to say my camera is actually came from the University of Colorado because they were discontinuing their old microscopes and they were selling them dirt cheap. I paid like $25 for this, but got really good optics on it because it was used as a university microscope. It doesn't have all the fancy bells and whistles, but I can take pictures through a microscope any day. Because again, we never used to have the options of using USB ports and stuff like that. And it's one of those things. I think I paid $25 for this microscope.
Okay, you guys are old. Damn it, because the prices are higher now. And Zen Ginger, stop laughing at me. I saw your LOL. Just look up USB microscope on Amazon or Google. Well, when I did it, just to find a certain magnification microscope. Nobody told me to make sure to get the camera or the USB connection. So I hear you. I'm laughing too. Yeah, the one I got didn't have a camera. It might have a connection. I'll have to look. But
you do know that you can get microscope slides with actual hollows in them, so you can actually put things that are in water in there and watch them swim around with the microscope.
Yep, but I still won't know what they are, what I'm looking at. You know, I mean, I can look and say, oh my gosh, there's all these different, crazy little microscopic creatures. I won't know if they're good or bad. I won't, that doesn't help me diagnose. I need to be able to take a picture, clear picture, post it to someone like Chris Carey or what's his name? Somebody who knows what they're doing, and actually say, what is this? and get an answer. That's the only way that would ever help. So it just irritated me because I was told to get the microscope to diagnose a problem, and once I got the microscope, I couldn't diagnose the problem, because I didn't know what I was looking at. It's just, all right. And
You do need some kind of background, because when you're looking through a microscope and you've got some rotifers and maybe some tiny pods and stuff, and they're all going 90 miles an hour in different directions trying to get back home, it can get a little confusing, yes, to say the least. The only difference is the rotifers spin, the copepods don't.
So literally you're telling me the way to tell on a microscope the difference between a rotifer and a copepod is whether they spin? That's it? I mean, there's got to be more than that. I don't know, but I'm not good with the microscope is the bottom line. And Zen Ginger said, if you can get a picture, you can, if you can get a pic, you can use Google Lens and it will pull up matching images and links for you. Oh, that's really good. That's really good. Because
I didn't know. I've never heard
yeah.
of Google Lens.
Thank you, Zen Ginger. I'm going to have to check that out too. Because like I said, mine was, I had a problem. I was told get a microscope, then you'll be able to diagnose, and meant nothing because I couldn't figure out what I was looking at. And Shyla said a lot of people in the hobby gets it to differentiate dinos and cyano.
Oh yeah,
right, absolutely. But there's
nice
so many
Tana.
images out there to show you what you're talking about. Tana has to go, and we're gonna go here in a second too, guys. We're pushing 10 o'clock.
There's a bunch of microscopes around $30-$40 on Amazon for USB.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
now I just need to learn how to.
Yeah.
But doesn't it matter the magnification? Like,
Yeah.
aren't some kind of crappy?
I'm sure it does. There's a bunch of different ones. This one's 50 to 1,000 times. Like, what magnification should
And
you
you know
look
what?
for?
Dan actually
there.
answered that question, and I can't remember the answer, so I got to hit him up. But he told me, and the one I bought was not $50. It was more expensive, and it was a probably higher magnification. What do you guys use in the comments?
Yeah, I see.
Scope, so check and see if you can get a camera to mount on it, because usually you can just take the eyepiece off the very top lens, you unscrew that and you put the camera on, and the camera itself will be a set number. Like it might be 10 times, and then you set your bottom one, it'll be 10 times whatever the bottom one is.
I'm going to have to buy one, and you'll have to show me, because that all sounded very confusing to me, but I've been drinking.
Well, both of mine have rotating bottom ones, so it goes through quite a range. And
these guys all have screens.
Nice. See, that's what I need right there.
Yeah, there's screens, and you can record.
See, look, we all look like noobs. Sorry, guys, but yeah.
Technology has improved since my high school microscope.
Right. And I did buy a microscope, based on Dan's specifications, Seahorse's specifications, but it was like highly concentrated. And when I looked at it, it was like trying to tune it in. There was layers, like you could see these things at this turn, and then if you turn more, you could see more. It was just, I'm not a freaking biologist. I just want to know what's wrong with my Seahorse. Not now, but then.
There's wireless digital microscopes. I mean, there's technology has advanced.
You guys have seen some of the pictures that I posted, and some of this stuff, you're talking something that is not visible by the naked eye.
Yep. Zen Ginger said most bacteria need about 1,000 times to see. So theoretically, it should be fine at that strength. I'll have to go, when we're done here, I'll have to go look.
And most of these are 1,000. Yeah, wireless digital microscope. Look at this one, sends it to your phone.
Yes, that's what I need.
35
And if anybody has any of these at home, do some pictures. Post them in Seahorse Whisperer group. I want to see them. I want to see how they turn out, how you diagnose, because I'd love to be able to.
I've even been known.
This one looks like it hooks to your iPad
Yes.
and like shows you on
That's
your
awesome.
iPad.
I've even been known to pull water out of nurseries and stuff like that, and search to see what kind of bacteria I have in the different systems.
Yes, but Cheryl, how do you know what you're looking at? It's your background, your
Well, that's true.
expertise.
Usually when you look at it, it's going to be bacteria you see in there in the fry tank.
Yeah.
But
Well,
the average hobbyist won't know if it's good, bad, or ugly.
Well,
I mean,
what you
we won't
what you
know.
want to look at is the amount. If you check it today and you see an X amount, and you check it a day or two later and you see it's doubled or tripled, you know you're not doing enough to keep it clean.
Which that makes sense. That's a good answer. But usually people won't look at this stuff until there's a problem. And then you're like, I have no baseline to measure against. You know, like just looking at the slide won't tell you anything if you're not a biologist.
Okay, when you first start off, use the scope to find out what it's like when the water is first clean and not had a time to build up anything. Then you can leave it till you have a problem then and check it and see what you're seeing at that time.
Totally agree. I'm saying most of us won't do that. I mean, it's just more work. But go ahead, Cheryl.
I was just going to say, it's like some of the pictures that I've taken of seahorse fry and stuff and invertebrates and things. Sometimes they even amaze me, like when I got the forked tail, when I realized hippocampus combs are born with forked tails. That one caught me by surprise. It's also been found in hippocampus cuta, by the way, same principle. But it's some of those things, and I'll sample water out of my nursery tanks, especially if I start running into problems, to see what's in there. And it's just another tool that can actually make your life easier.
Well, now that we know we can get pictures from these samples, Cheryl, you're the expert in Seahorse Whisperer group. You have to diagnose everything we post. Every picture, dang it. You have to tell us what it is, ID it, that's it.
We'll all get microscopes and start overwhelming
Cheryl.
What's even worse, though, is I did a whole series on pods, different species of pods at one point. And one of them, I interchanged two of them. So I had them mislabeled. And I forget who it was, but somebody messaged me, "You've got them mislabeled." And I'm thinking, oh, no. And as soon as I looked at them, I went, oh, crap.
You fixed it, though. We know you fixed it. It's all
yeah, it was an easy fix, but I felt about 2 inches tall.
Nah, everybody makes mistakes. And anybody out there, if you have scopes that you want to share to show us, you know, how you diagnose something, please post in the group for sure, because we want to get used to this. I want to learn more. It's interesting.
Well, the thing is, too, if you photograph like newborn fry and you've got a young pair, you'd be amazed how much difference a year and then 2 years make and so on in the size and quality of the fry at birth. And it's fun to track some of this stuff, and it's really helpful when you're raising them to get a good feel of what you've really got.
Cheryl, Zen Ginger said, we'll pin a message so we all know who to contact. Cheryl. No, but absolutely. No, I mean, I would like to learn more about that for sure, because I mean, when I was having trouble and I was told to get a microscope, I had slides, didn't know how to get them onto an image. So this is a good conversation. You know, we need to figure out, and Ray just posted something about Google Lens. I'll try to copy that and paste it into the comments.
Yeah. Well,
so yeah.
Those pictures can really be helpful too, because it gives you a good feel. If you've got a really young pair and you couldn't raise any of those fry, and you look at them and they got this great big head and this little bitty body, right now, that's a dead giveaway that they weren't kept in the oven long enough, so to speak. And you take pictures from the same pair a year later as they've matured, and the fry are over double the size of their first brood.
Sure. We saw that with Tana, didn't we? Yeah. But yeah. Anyways, guys, I do have to work tomorrow. So this is a fantastic conversation that will continue. Next week, we do have a guest. So watch for the posts about that. I'll let you know more about him and what we'll be talking about. Hint, hint. It'll be really important things to seahorse keepers like Vibrio and bacteria. But we will be having a guest next week, and we will continue this conversation in the Seahorse Whisperer group. Make sure you're over there to talk about figuring out how, as an average hobbyist, you can use a microscope to diagnose stuff. Because I admit I'm still lost. No matter what they say, when I look at that stuff, I don't know what it is. We'll try Google Lens. We'll try some different things. And anything else you guys we need to say before we go tonight?
I'm sleepy.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, I love you guys. I want to stay here all night with you, but my kids are bugging me and I'm so tired. Oh, but thank you, anyone who came. Thank you for anyone who watches later. We really appreciate you being part of the community. We're going to grow this community and hope you enjoyed the convo tonight. Make sure to watch for posts about next week. And with that, I'm just going to say happy Wednesday because I am tired. I'm like, it's not the
Happy
wine.
Easter,
I'm tired.
everybody.
Yes, happy
Easter.
Easter to those who celebrate. Thank you, Cheryl.
Oh yeah, that's this week.
I celebrate the seahorse bunny, the calf bunny, and the baby horse bunny, the foal.
There you go. Okay.
I'm an equal opportunity
celebrator. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, please join us next week when we will have a guest, and join us every week to chat. Any questions, any topics you want, make sure we know about it. Go over to Facebook and join our Seahorse Whisperer group as we grow it. It's still in the works, but yeah. So for tonight, you guys, happy Wine Wednesday. Everybody say cheers.
Don't forget to tell your guests to make sure you see pictures of all this stuff.
Pictures of all what stuff? What do you mean?
Hey, I've got
the bacteria, like the Vibrio and all this stuff, so you can.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I don't know if they'll have that ready by next week, but we'll try.
I've got over 10,000 pictures.
We see Cheryl start sharing them on the group so we can see what's what. We'll have a something to reference. But okay, guys, I'm ending it. I got to end it. Love you all. See you
all right
next week.